Hello, welcome to Abracadabra, Create What You Speak. I'm iLan Azoulai, spiritual mentor and a sound therapist for you who are ready to reclaim your power. I work through sound frequencies and the power of our voice. Abracadabra, this is an empowerment program, a program where I bring thought leaders, artists, scientists, anyone that is in their gifts and anyone that is here to support one another, to show their gifts to the world, and with that to empower and encourage another person. Even one person is enough. In the face of the urgent environmental crisis that the world faces, multiple solutions are necessary: technological, political, economic, ethical, and behavioral. While the Sabbath or Shabbat is rooted in Judaism, the Torah or the Bible is not only for Jewish people, but for the entire world to learn from, enjoy its wisdom that has known to our fathers way before science, and to spark our imagination for a better, more divinely connected self. Therefore, the Shabbat can be looked at as a solution to our global climate and earth crisis. How can the Sabbath be of service to earth? How can we take the gems about the Sabbath and apply it towards a sustainable solution for our dying earth or sustainable communities? We can do so much more for our world, for our communities, and for earth without actually doing anything. What a concept. My guest is Jonathan Schorsch, the founder of the Green Sabbath Project. Green Sabbath Project is to spark a mass movement of observance of a weekday of rest, Sabbath, Shabbat, a green Sabbath or a weekly Earth Day on which impact on the environment is minimized as much as possible. I want to bring Jonathan online and there you are. Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Hello, iLan. Welcome to my screen. Thanks for having me.
Well, welcome to my screen. I have to deal here with headphones that crashed a little, but we'll do.
Oh,
Everything is we have to improvise, right? We have to
exactly.
improvise. Thank you very much for joining. You're joining from Berlin, is that right?
I am joining you from Berlin. I teach at a German university, although I myself am a thoroughgoing New Yorker.
Oh wow, yeah, I could hear the accent. So please tell us and tell me again, but tell our viewers really what is the Green Sabbath project. This is really a concept. So please share with that.
With,
Please share with us that.
with pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored and
Absolutely.
delighted. The Green Sabbath Project is something I thought of about 2 years ago. We finished our website really right as COVID hit big time. And as a historian, someone who studies Jewish history and the Jewish past and Judaism and the many things it has to offer us, still today, when I kept thinking about Judaism and the ecology, I kept, of course, coming back to the question of Shabbat, the question of the Sabbath, which is really the heart and center of Judaism and Torah and its program in many, many ways. And I really kept thinking, it's fascinating how, to me, this ancient idea and practice is still so relevant, and how desperately I feel like we could use it in the 21st century, where we face these ecological crises of huge enormity and urgency. And here we have this kind of ancient spiritual technology of just taking one day off a week, and I feel like I feel like it's an ecological ritual or practice, and that's exactly what we need. I think as our societies are trying to figure out how to move to what some call an ecological or cosmological orientation, in the face of these environmental crises, Shabbat or the Sabbath, the idea of a weekly day of rest, seems to me a wonderful vehicle, a wonderful kind of weekly Earth Day ecological ritual that, that what does it mean to be an ecological civilization or cosmological society, a system that really thinks about the future, thinks about the well-being not just of the elite or the white men, but of everyone, and even non-human species, thinks of the well-being of ecosystems, etc., etc. And we have so far to go to get there. So to celebrate, obviously, right, we obviously have to do all the important things we know are helpful: recycling, composting, using less energy, having more energy efficient buildings, etc. But there's a way in which what we also need to do is really develop practices as a society that reinforce our environmental values and that reorient us in our struggle to preserve those values, to preserve the environment. And so to me, something like Sabbath, which is a practice indigenous to the West for, well over 1,000 years, obviously goes back even further in Judaism, and a practice that is organically deeply interwoven with our daily lives. 6 days of the week we work now, in modern times 5 days of the week, and then thankfully we have a weekend, whether it's secular or religious or spiritual. We have it due to union labor efforts, among other of those who fought for it. And the idea, the ancient practice of a Shabbat, of a day a week where you essentially say to your employers, you say essentially to the economic system, I don't belong to you, you don't own me. I have an existence beyond you. I have a freedom and a dignity that you can't touch. And so it temporarily, 1 day a week out of 7, right, I'm free, I'm liberated, I can't be exploited. I'm not concerned with profit making. I'm not concerned with doing or changing or manipulating nature. I'm just delighting in being. I'm content. I'm with my family. I'm with my kids. I'm with my partner.
Yeah.
And, here we are in the 21st century, really becoming increasingly aware of how we're, particularly in the United States, how we're working ourselves way too hard, suffering individual illness, suffering collective illness, environmentally. All of the accumulation that we have been able to do in this hyper-capitalist accumulation society has not made us happy in many respects. And we are destroying possibly the very means of our existence environmentally. So, I think we desperately have to change how we do things. And the idea that once a week we have a practice that reminds us it's not about how much you make. It's not about how much you own. We have to remember the Sabbath comes in the midst of a radical program, a radical kind of theo-political, socio-economic program, right? Every 7 days you rest. So you have the weekly day of rest, and then every 7 years you have a sabbatical year, right? The Shemitah year, the sabbatical year, in which, by the way, all debts are canceled. All private agricultural lands are supposed to be made public, absolutely common use, right? The commons.
That's in Judaism, yeah.
This is in Judaism, and the biblical system that Shabbat, that Sabbath comes in the midst of. So every 7 years, you don't work the land, you trust in God's abundance. You don't harvest, you don't irrigate, you trust that there will be enough naturally. And the private property aspect of land ownership also is released for the year. Can you imagine canceling all debts every 7 years in our system?
Yeah, what a concept.
Right? And then, exactly, and then every 7 times that cycle, right? So every 7 times 7 years, we have this Jubilee year, the Yovel, and the Jubilee year on the 50th year is the kind of culmination of this cycle. And it's also a sabbatical year. All slaves are freed. All lands revert to their original owner. So you have this economic system that is designed to prevent economic disequilibrium, right? The system itself is meant to kind of fix itself every 7 years, every 49 years, and every 7th day, and not become so imbalanced, not become so unequal that it becomes unhealthy, that it becomes unfair.
That's right. That's right.
And
Even
so
our body.
Sabbath is part of this radical program, and we forget that. Even those of us who keep Sabbath in a traditional sense, Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, often forget that the main purpose of the biblical Sabbath was Zecher L'Maaseh Breshit, right? In
That's
commemoration
right.
of the creation of the world. It was
That's right.
to celebrate just the fact that we exist, that there's something here beautiful that we share. So it's a deeply ecological practice, even in its biblical origins.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right. This is
anyway, I
this
can
is
go on and on about
no, I
Sabbath.
get you.
So
I totally
I
get you.
hope that gives you some introduction.
This gives a great introduction and a great insight to how to look at that, because when people hear usually Sabbath, Shabbat, or whether they're Jews or non-Jews, they look at it from a religious dogmatic standpoint. It is not a necessarily, again, it's not. There are exceptions, of course, and people like yourself and I definitely. I mean, after I heard that, I mean, it just makes sense. And we're talking about being being grateful, to waking up, to seeing creation, to be thankful to everything that is happening. And how can we, and sometimes it is hard when somebody is going through a hardship. Some of us are having different stories, and everybody has a different story, and somebody is going through a hardship. It is hard to look at it just from the mind standpoint. So there is an action that actually is doing nothing, right? Is actually doing nothing. There is an action that is here, that is physically here, that is. And there is a different sense. When Shabbat comes in, there is a different feel in the air. I tell you that it is if you're attuned to that, there is a different feel in the air. Yesterday I was Redondo, and it was just Friday, and I was looking before Shabbat and looking at everything, and just looking at the beach, and just the birds and the animals, and you're talking, and we'll talk about that, because there's so many things that I saw on your website that are worth mentioning, and important to mention. That it is not from a religious standpoint, but from an ecological, from an animal rights standpoint. uh,
Right.
uh, and our body also regenerates every 7 years. Our cells regenerate every 7 years. Seven is a number that is worldwide. 7 days, like you mentioned, 7 days, and just 7 year. Everything is connected. If we look at
Right.
it from a standpoint of creation, we're saying, okay, let's leave the religious part aside for a second. Okay, let's leave the religious part aside for a second. With one action, or the lack of an action, so to speak, we are helping animals, we're helping the earth recycle, we're helping the air maybe clean up a little bit. I mean, we're talking,
Right.
I join meetings that are talking about what can we do, and also, like this program that is an empowerment program, and the work that I do in empowering, it's not what can we do all the time, but what can we peel off that will contribute to where we want to go, because it's really about unlearning all these stories and all these things that we've accumulated over the years, whether it whatever country we are, whatever family we're born into. So this is really you're writing on your you write on your website. This is great. Appreciation and gratitude for Earth, for cosmos, for the existence. It's time for us to just think, to just look a little bit about what's around us. Hospitality, education, and your project, the Green Sabbath project. And before we get into how you started this, but the Green Sabbath project is really actively involved in the community. How is it coming to play? How's it?
It is that's what I love so much about the idea of this Sabbath, this weekly day of rest, is that so many different things intersect through it, so many things flow through it: community, self-care, self-well-being. It's political, it's spiritual, it's completely ecological. It's a practice, it's also an idea, and so it has so many dimensions to it. um, Sabbath really is about community, what we encourage people to do. And again, I really appreciate your emphasizing that. And I just want to repeat, we're really not pushing Shabbat or Sabbath in any Orthodox traditional sense,
Yeah,
Jewish or otherwise.
absolutely.
I really am trying to adapt this and popularize it for the 21st century, And I'm happy to have it take many different forms, many different kinds of things one can do, almost as many things as one can imagine, right? So it could be a whole day in which you do nothing, in which you withdraw from impacting on nature, withdraw from influencing and manipulating nature. It could be a day on which you read nature poetry out loud to one another. It could be a day on which you say prayers that you wrote with your school children, thanks to Mother Earth. It could be you play ecological board games together. It could be something as simple as going for a walk in the woods,
That's right.
meditating outdoors. Instead of having your regular sermon, you could have read Wendell Berry poems, etc., etc., etc. There's so many things, and to me, any of those and all of those things could be Green Sabbath worthy.
Yeah.
And it can be a pantheistic thing. It can be an absolutely atheistic thing. It can be something that you do because it's functional and it makes sense to rest. And you could do it for reasons because it's the deepest mystical, cosmological secrets. I don't know that I care so much. I just feel like we really need to become ecological societies, and this seems to me such a wonderful vehicle to do it. So according to the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, right, there are the Sabbath is really not much is said about it. We know only that it honors or imitates God, having created the world in 6 days and then resting. So we know we're supposed to imitate God and rest, and we're told that it comes to commemorate two things. One is the liberation of the Israelite slaves from slavery in Egypt, and two, to commemorate creation, the fact that the world exists, that God so loved us and the world that God created something for us to survive on and thrive on. So that was Shabbat, that was Sabbath. You weren't supposed to light fires. You weren't supposed to leave your dwelling place. And that's about all we know about it. The rabbis elaborated a whole system of forbidden
Yeah.
labor,
Mhm.
things that were done, all of the work that went into building this mobile tabernacle, the kind of nomadic home for the divine when the Israelites were in the desert, the Mishkan. All of the work that went into it, chopping, timber, painting,
Yes.
cutting,
It's
building, nailing, etc. All of those 39 forms of labor that rabbis decided, there were 39 of them, they were all forbidden on Sabbath. And, on the one hand, it's an ancient understanding of the world and technology and what, society is. You construct things, you build things, and so on the day of rest, we don't do any of those things.
yeah.
Uh, and in our era, we're all looking around for ways we can reduce our carbon footprint, right? We're all obsessed with, hopefully, obsessed with,
Hopefully all. But
right,
it's,
hopefully we're obsessed with reducing our impact on the environment. And
yeah.
here, already 3,000, 2,500, 2,000 years ago, we don't know the exact dates, the rabbis came up with their own system of saying, here are the actions that we're going to voluntarily give up one day a week in order to go back for that day to the Garden of Eden. That's one of the
Yeah.
things that people talk about the Sabbath in Judaism, right? The Sabbath is a return to the Garden of Eden, and that we could talk about that a lot. That's a beautiful image and what it
It's
means, right?
beautiful.
It's like the Garden of Eden because one can rest, one doesn't have to work, one lives purely from divine abundance, right?
And
It's like the
coming into
Garden of Eden
unity. Coming into
coming
unity
into
because we're
unity.
coming into unity
There's
with earth, back to Eden, the unity. Yeah.
right. There's no separation. There's no alienation. Exactly. So one day a week we could really achieve that by entering, traditionally and according to the Jewish mystical
Yes.
tradition, we can enter that if we have the right mindset, the right mindfulness, and we can really create a kind of temporary utopia. As you said, very much harmony with our own bodies, our souls, with our minds, all at one. The cosmos is in harmony. Uh, it's not the ultimate redemption, it's not the ultimate salvation of everything, but it's something that we can really do,
Yes.
induce an altered state of being every seventh day and live a kind of temporary utopia. So again, very powerful to me, especially thinking ecologically, right? Where we have such desire, rightfully so, to live in harmony with the seasons, with other beings.
That's right.
Uh, how do we do what we need to do for our own survival, but in a way that ultimately contributes to the well-being of other species, not just extracts
That's right.
resources and things
That's
that
right.
we need.
That's right.
So, yeah, go
It's
ahead.
it's interesting. This weekly, I talked about it on Friday. This weekly portion, Vayakahel,
Hmm.
is talking about continuation of the building of the Mishkan. But what's
Right,
interesting is that he starts first with the Shabbat. With the Shabbat,
right.
he starts first with the Shabbat, and you say, well, you think that naturally he will start with, okay, this is what we need to do for the Mishkan, and talking about the half shekel and the half coin that I talked about. It is a representation of our potential. The half is our potential, and the next half is how we exercise this potential.
Hmm.
And but he talks about the Shabbat first, saying that despite how wonderful and how divine work that you are doing, Shabbat is Shabbat. Shabbat comes before, and you don't do even the work on Shabbat, and it's really it's really fascinating to see how, first of all, how everything comes together, even in the form of conversation, in the form that we're having today, a conversation about
Right.
this, about rejuvenation, about uh, getting this feminine energy, the creation, the feminine energy in Shabbat and rejuvenation, and this portion of the week. This is really fascinating. Before I
Yeah,
continue, I think I butchered your last name when I said it.
no worries. Schorsch,
Schorsch. All
Schorsch
right,
is
there you go. There you go.
yeah, it's a hard one.
So
It's a hard
so so Jonathan, you were born in New York, you said,
very much.
right?
I wasn't born in New York, but I was raised in New York. Yeah.
You were raised in New York.
Yeah.
How were you raised always in a religious family, in a observant family? How did you come into where you are today?
My father is a rabbi, was a rabbi. He's also a historian. His father, my grandfather, alav hashalom, may his memory be a blessing,
Amen.
was also a rabbi in Germany. So it's even interesting my being back in Germany. So
Mm.
I grew up in homes that were, yes, steeped in Torah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Uh, and as I'm finding out now as a scholar, more and more, my grandfather and his father, my great grandfather, who actually ran a Jewish orphanage in southern Germany,
Wow.
and he was really very connected to nature. My great grandfather and my grandfather too, who grew up in a small village in southern Germany, they were very much rural Jews, and they were very much connected to the natural world in which they lived. So I find that very sweet, very moving, and fascinating. Um, that it would be ideal, right? I have one colleague who's a Christian theologian who has written a beautiful, really important book about agriculture in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible in particular, and how the Hebrew Bible reflects really a pretty, again, kind of radical economic politics, a kind of agrarian vision
Mm.
of, economic self-sufficiency, small scale, kind of small is beautiful. As the prophets put it, every man or woman under his fig tree,
Yeah.
and there is something very beautiful about that vision in Judaism. We would love to be holy all the time, right? We would love the divine to be housed in everything in the world, in everything in existence. And maybe that's possible. It's often hard to see the divine in existence. And that's why biblically, right, they build a tabernacle, they build a specific building. And it's not like God, really, that's the only place God is, but it's a metaphor, it's a symbol, right? That's
Yes.
the people know God is there. And, so this Christian theologian said to me, well, well, Green Sabbath, I don't like the idea that one day a week I'm supposed to minimize my environmental impact. I have to do that every day of the week. And, we should all the time we should be thinking about how to reduce our environmental. And I
Yeah.
said, yes, absolutely, you're completely correct. But it's hard for people to always be holy. It's hard for people to always do the right thing. And in a way, the power of ritual, the power of a practice, is precisely that as a vehicle, as a vessel. It challenges you, it provokes you, hopefully positively, right, to take advantage of this form and fill it with something,
Yes.
right? And, if we could meditate all the time and be mindful and always connected and not alienated, we would do that. But who can keep that up? That's an impossible level, right?
Well, we
So
are. Yeah.
one day a week is something doable. You can remember one day a week. Oh yeah, thank God there are days of the week. Thank God we have a planet we can live on, do work on. This is, you thank God that we have vegetables to eat. Thank God we have a community, and we bury our dead nearby, and that roots us to the soil near us. And I mean, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
Ritual can be.
we are always we are in duality, right? We live in duality. We have the flesh, we have the soul. We live in duality, so it's always like a pull and push. Sometimes we have to be there to want to come back here, and to be here to want to come back here. So it's
Mhm.
I don't see that it is. Um, that it is very, like you said, not many people can be constantly in one place of divinity, on one place of connectedness, on one place, because we are immersed in this world. We are immersed in this creation, and the divine. Yeah, while the Mishkan is, as you said, is a metaphor, is a place of coming together. Maybe it's an idea of focusing, of being focused on when we want to do something. When some people cannot work from home, so they have to go out to the office to have the feel that they are working, and then they can get work done. It is similar to that, but because we're living here on earth, God is everywhere, and God is everywhere we invite God to be in.
Right.
So the Sabbath, I think, is like the Mishkan, if we look at it like what you're saying, where we're taking one day a week to focus on it and to be there. Because especially if you haven't, if one didn't practice this all the time, it's very hard and probably not very sustainable to jump right away into 100%, 0 to 100,
Right.
starting in a
Right.
incremental
But there
build.
are absolutely. And there are all kinds of things one can do. There are towns and neighborhoods that, for instance, where they might shut down some of the streets so that the streets can be reclaimed by pedestrians or skateboarders or
Yeah, yes.
bicyclists. Right, there are all kinds of things now. Tiffany Schlein is a filmmaker who started something called Technology Shabbats, where she and her family get off all of their devices and all of their screens for 24 hours, once a week. So there are a lot of people who are realizing the wisdom of these kinds of things. And also, just Shabbat, according to Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, right? Shabbat is called oneg. V'karata la Shabbat oneg, right? You call the
Hmm.
Shabbat a delight. And why is the Shabbat a delight? Because one is simply existing. One isn't doing. One doesn't have to prove one's existence. One doesn't have a goal one is getting to. There's nothing instrumental. You can simply
Hmm.
delight and be. And that's so hard for us to do for, a variety of reasons. And just that delight to chill,
Yeah,
to
sure.
simple things like having a extended meal with your friends and family, being able to sing a little bit, and really enjoy each other's company, uh, and enjoy the gifts of the world, around us that we hopefully helped grow and produce, and really to enter that mindset is so important for us. We're so busy running and chasing
That's
and
right.
grabbing and yearning and desiring, and so this idea, a practice, a self-discipline, whatever we want to call it, of just saying to ourselves, we have enough. or this is what do I need? What do I really need? What else do I really need? I have my health, I have my family, thank God. Um, there's a way that when we think about the ecological crises, yes, of course, they're technical, scientific crises, but they're really spiritual crises. It's a we have a
Especially
society
now.
we
I mean,
can't figure
especially
out how to
now.
satisfy ourselves.
Yeah,
On the most
yeah.
basic level, nothing is enough for us. Yeah, but go ahead.
The difference between having much than having everything, than to having everything, right? Jacob and Esau, right? He said,
Yeah,
"I have much." I said, "I have everything." So it is really a spiritual look at things. When I talk to people or anybody is asking, I said, uh, uh, or when I work with clients, the main point to start looking at things is to understand that everything physical in this realm has a spiritual reason and cause. And if we look at if we shift the lens that we look through, we will see things in different light, in different manner.
exactly.
So for you who are joining Abracadabra, thank you for joining. I'm here with Jonathan Schorsch. He's the founder of a Green Sabbath project, a project that takes this day of once a week of Shabbat, of Sabbath, regardless of what affiliation or any religious affiliations you have, but a relaxing day for you, for Earth, because when we relax, we allow ourselves to rejuvenate and relax. We're also rebuilding Earth and giving back to Earth because we came here, we have this beautiful harmonious bowl. We got everything. We have food, we have medicine in Earth, plants medicine, we have everything, energy, and we are just the taking and taking and taking and taking, and eventually it comes to an end. So this is
Right.
this is really encouraging, because when I first saw that, and I was like, and I saw you're in Germany, I was like, are there any other communities, affiliations around the world that are associating with you? I saw you have several videos, several speakers on your website, and your website is listed down here, greensabbathproject.net.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
And
you for that.
so,
Yeah, we have all kinds of connections around the world. Because of COVID and the pandemic, it's been impossible to do in-person events, which has been
mhm, yeah,
uh, harsh for all of us in many ways. And because Sabbath is really about becoming hyper local and just really communing with your friends and your family, um, not needing to travel, not needing to go anywhere because
hmm,
where you need to go, you have everything right here.
yes,
Right? And so that's been hard. We have lots of communities and organizations and congregations around the world. Um, but what I see is most things have been happening virtually on Zoom. I'm
yeah,
hoping that will change. We're going to have a whole weekend in October probably of bringing together as many congregations and organizations as possible around the world to do a kind of shared Green Sabbath weekend. Um, and by the way, there are African societies that have very similar practices. One day every
yes, for
5
sure.
or one day every 7, where they also there's no fishing, they let the rivers replenish. So there are many reasons to allow the earth to rest. And by the way, the Bible tells us explicitly in Leviticus and Vayikra, it says explicitly, V'tirtzeha aretz et right? The land wants her rest. The land needs
That's
her
right.
rest. And this might just be nice poetic speech, but other beings, non-human beings, uh, also have needs, also have uh, to be treated well and taken care of and not ignored. And so Shabbat isn't just for us as humans, right? As you said before, iLan, it's
Exactly.
really for all beings as well, possibly. So we encourage people to do all kinds of things. We have a long list of suggestions on our website. Having a potluck meal with your friends, make it vegan, make it local. You can
I
even make it
think I
farm
think that
food.
I've interviewed people from different animal rights um, organizations, or how do you say, not organizations, but that are animal rights activists, and I think this will be a really great expansion and addition to each side, because we're both going towards the same ocean. Let's combine the rivers, you know.
Mhm.
And I think working together with and being involved together with animal rights groups, anti-fur, you know, to help raise awareness. Because what I hear from people is, when you talk about these things, or animal rights, or, oh, I have to stop doing this, or I have to stop doing that, or I have to change the way that I am, and how is it good for me, and how, just like where it's talked about that, deal with the Torah also. If it's not for its sake, it'll become its sake, right? Mashalo lishma yavo lishma, right?
Right.
So also, if we meet people in the way that doesn't affect their their earthly needs, right? So we come to them in their language, talking to them in their language, and through their language they see how things are shifting. Not, oh, you have to observe, you have to be religious, you have to, because then people just go away. And the whole point is to bring people to shift their perception, to change their
Right.
perception in whatever way. And I feel, you know, on a whole different note, Steve Jobs in one of his interviews said, we have to change the way of how we think about technology. It's not, let's invent great technology and see how we can market it. Let's look at what the customer needs, and let's fit the technology to it so we can get what we want. And on the same level is, let's see how are people operating, and bring them the concepts of the divine, the concept of creation, so they can see and say, oh, yes, I want it. I need it. This is what I want. And so I really applaud you, and I really thank God for the work that you're doing, and anybody who is in the work of helping others, and contributing to others, and contributing to the world. This is really this is really fascinating. I'm you know,
I'm so glad. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you
this
for
is
your kind
really
words. Yeah,
absolutely.
I hope it
So
resonates with people.
so you live in how long are you in Berlin already? How long do you live in Germany?
This is now my 7th year, and
Ah, right,
I
maybe time to
enjoy
go back
Berlin a
to
lot. It's a great city. Interestingly, Germany is a country like Israel that has Sundays. Almost all commerce is closed. Almost all businesses are closed. With certain exceptions, restaurants. But I appreciate it. It's of course an intervention into the free market, but
yeah,
it kind of forces you to spend a day slowing down, spend a day in the park, spend a day with your kids, spend a day reading. We have to learn increasingly to satisfy our needs without having to buy something, without having to consume. That's the main
exactly,
thing about Shabbat
exactly.
is really
You know,
remembering that we don't have to consume to be happy. You know,
that's right, because happiness and consumption are two different worlds. Happiness is spiritual, really. Happiness is the sense inside, and consumption is for the physical. And that's why when we are sad, or some people when are sad, they go and buy something because they think that it'll revive them. The soul says, I'm hungry. You go give it a car. uh,
right?
the soul realized that the car is not enough. The car is not food, and after a week or 2 weeks or something, the person is Gesundheit. The person is tired of the car, and now the soul wants more, because the first wave didn't work. It was material. It doesn't really help our spiritual growth. It is a physical need. So
Right.
no, this is really great. um, so now, did you grow up all the time in, I mean, yeah, you told me your father and your family in religious, so most likely, is that correct, that you were most likely in a religious or Jewish environment? Did you find yourself, you know what, what's happening over
Yeah,
there? I want to see what's happening over there.
yeah, yeah, of course. I grew up in New York City, in the Bronx. I went to Jewish day school, modern Orthodox day school. In high school already, I went to a public high school. But I was continuing, to learn Jewishly, privately at the seminary in high school. I mean, I went through my own Gilgulim. I went through my own different understandings of things. I mean, my family was conservative, Masorti,
Hmm.
fairly shomer mitzvot, fairly observant for that world. But definitely, revolved around Torah. Um, Getting married, I got back into Torah a lot more and into Hasidism and other things. I mean, I teach Jewish studies. I mean, my life revolves around Torah. I mean, I love
Yeah.
it, find it very meaningful and satisfying. I also feel like, and this is part of the Green Sabbath project too, in a way, while we have a lot to learn from Judaism and from other um, ancient practices also, aren't, uh, they also evolve and they also can change and they should change. And, that's something all religions and cultural traditions wrestle with. How much change is too much and how much do you have to
Yeah.
preserve? But again, I think the idea of Green Sabbath, and just even for people who are secular, who don't believe in organized religion, who don't believe in God, you know, to hopefully find it meaningful or powerful, just to take care of oneself, just to
Yes.
rest
Yes.
one day a week, or just to slow down and focus on, living really kind of ecologically one day out of
Yeah.
seven. What does it really mean? And again, it's not like Green Sabbaths are not like a substitute for all of the other actions we have to do. It's
No,
not
no,
like
of
this.
course, it's an addition. It's one more thing. It's one more thing we can
Right.
not do.
So I don't know. I feel like, religion also has a lot to learn uh,
Yeah.
from the world as it changes. And we need, I feel like we desperately need ecological rituals and ecological practices.
This is
And
great.
this is one that is just seems to me supremely relevant and resonant. So even just the thinking about it, and it's so powerful.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing in the world for us moderns to do, us Western moderns, I think, is to slow down, to not do. We're so used to achieving. So much of our culture is achievement culture. Uh,
Well, I think this time, this Coronic era, as I call it, um, really achieved the opposite of uh, its creator's intent.
mm,
Um, the intent, as I see that, is to create isolation, to create separation, to keep people in survival mode so they don't think critically,
mm,
to be separated, to be at homes. And what it created, actually, it brought many, many, many people into the understanding and the experience that, oh, how much we need one another, oh, how much connection is important, oh, how much togetherness is crucial and divine, just by its creation, just by its need, just by the need to be connected. So it brings people. So when I came across this project, this project, it was fascinating because it's not coming through a religious, dogmatic standpoint, but it comes from exactly that which what we need. It is the connection. It is the connection to earth, the connection to trees, the connection to one another. And so I'm really really happy that you're here, and uh, connections to different groups, to different people, is so important. And that's why this program is here. That's why this platform is here, to encourage people to come together, to encourage people to support one another, to empower one another, to be there for one another, because I say our power is in our unity. This
right.
is really with our power. To you who are watching, or who's watching now, or all the groups that I'm sending this to, Jonathan Schorsch is the founder of Green Sabbath Project, greensabbathproject.net, a project to bring everyone together through one day. Boom. That's it. To bring everybody together through one day, to bring everybody towards creation. Jonathan, I'm really grateful that you are here. Is there last words before we say thank you, and à tout à l'heure, and later?
Thank you. I again am just really grateful that you heard of us and thought to invite me, and I'm glad we had a chance to get to
Absolutely.
know each other a little bit and share our views on the world. And yeah, really, I invite you and all of the people in your network to join us in October. I'll be happy to send out announcements when
Please, what's in October? Share with us what's in October.
we're going to do a shared Green Sabbath weekend, where again people can do what they want to do, whether it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, religious, not religious. You can do a group meditation. You can get together and read some nature poetry together, hopefully in person by then. And that's where we try to encourage every week. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. In fact, the opposite. And again, that's the paradox and our website plays with that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
intentionally. Is there nothing we can do to save the environment? Yeah, precisely. Nothing may be really one of the best things you can do. So this idea
Exactly. Exactly.
of like, yeah, we can actually
You
kick
know what would
back
be
and
cool?
enjoy
Well,
doing nothing and not feel guilty.
what would be cool is in October, the weekend that you're doing the event, and the event for everybody around the world is to have some kind of a platform where everybody can broadcast what they're doing that day.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
becomes a virtual experience of that weekend in October. So if somebody is doing meditation, sound healing, all these, but
exactly.
broadcast it directly to your platform, and then it's like this is really great. This is really
That's a
great.
beautiful
Everybody,
idea. I like actually that idea you had. So we will have a Zoom event
good.
at the beginning of the weekend, and then we'll have different environmental leaders, religious leaders speak and have different breakout groups. It'll almost be like a kind of how-to training, how to do this at home, for yourself
That's
with
wonderful. That's
community
wonderful.
friends. And then we'll do our in-person things around the world. And at the end of the weekend, hopefully, we'll have a second Zoom kind of get together again, closing meditations
That's
and say,
wonderful.
share our experiences, and hopefully we'll do this every year. But and you don't
That's
really
wonderful.
check out the website, get in touch with us, and we'll
That's
keep doing.
wonderful. I'll be happy talking to you about doing sound session, sound healing. So maybe we could do that and broadcast it into your platform. That'll be
Love it.
wonderful because I work with sound frequencies, and everything is about frequencies and energy. So this is great. I'm really really blessed to know you. Just stay on the platform after the broadcast ends, and we'll talk a little bit. I want to thank everybody who is here. I want to thank Jonathan Schorsch for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the courage to be here and to listen and to participate. Um, Everybody for one another. And thank you for joining. This is Abracadabra. Create what you speak. I'm iLan Azoulai, and I will see you soon, sometime soon.